Hey everyone, welcome to another kick-ass interview. I am delighted to have Kelly Massey and her husband Frank here to talk about their experience in getting coached, their experience in transformation. And I am super, super happy that Frank is joining us because one of the things that typically happens is that we talk to the woman on our clarity calls and we talk about their career. And then there's like, oops, let me talk to the other half. So I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to see what a husband's experience looks like when his wife goes through a transformational coaching program and just to talk through it. So Kelly and Frank, thank you so much for joining me and telling your story so that others can be inspired.
Well, thanks for having us, Mo. We're
Yeah.
excited to be here and join you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mo.
You got it. And it was, so from the very beginning, Kelly, when you and I connected on the clarity call and you told me you're in Buffalo, I mean, I felt that, okay, something's going to happen magical here. Since I was born in the beautiful city of Buffalo, actually Cheektowaga, I knew that this was destiny. But you were having some real struggles.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what was going on.
Yeah.
That caused you to book the clarity call and see if we could help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So Frank and I were living with our family, our two sons, high school age, in Buffalo at the time. This was just about a year ago.
Yeah.
And we're driving home. I was driving home from dropping my oldest son off at college, returning after the Christmas break. We are not originally from Buffalo, as you know, and a little bit of corporate migrants, I guess you would say. At one point, I began to feel that way. So, my path was in corporate product development on the corporate side of building consumer product. And, we would move around. Jobs would come along, but, Frank and I being of the I guess the time frame that we grew up, we both are first generation college goers and achievers and graduates. And, you go through that, but we didn't really have a compass of what to do with that after that. So, you just start working and one job leads to the next and the next and the next. And then you have some kids and next thing you know, you're moving again. And, I found myself driving home after dropping my son off. This was late January in the midst of an awful, snowstorm, the beginning of the winter
of course, it's
snowstorm season in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do this anymore. I had just been, we had just relocated for a company that, again, and I had uprooted my family, and 20 months in there was a massive layoff and restructure. So I knew I couldn't just face, just the next steps alone. Yeah. I had never had any sort of coaching outside of the actual company I worked for, which we all know the incentive there is not for my benefit, really. So I began to say, I got to get some help. And as fates would have it, we crossed paths and had our clarity call, and I knew this is for me. This is what I need. And little did I know it would be all that and more, because what I thought I was really going to go after was kind of reassessing what the next step should be in my career. And and that was kind of, what I thought I was doing. Yeah. But as I quickly learned, it was that and so much more.
Disguised in life coaching. Frank, what was your take on what was going on with Kelly at the time?
Well, as Kelly said, we've had an interesting story of moving, migration, replanting ourselves all the while, keeping a family cohesive and, filling it with love. So I saw Kelly hit a rock bottom that she hadn't hit before. And interesting, I didn't, through my professional LinkedIn, I actually saw you and your smiling face like a day or two before. Okay. So when Kelly told me she was thinking about, connecting with you, I was like, I know that name. I've seen that name. So it was like, it was very interesting. It was very, very natural and very serendipitous. It all came together.
Right.
So Kelly was pretty much deflated and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just one more arrow to the heart. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she needed it. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, you know, your system, your process helped me be a better partner and husband and coach to her.
Mm.
Because I was able to reflect on the things I had gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I was speaking the same language as you. So it was good reinforcement.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, I know ordinarily spouses, partners get a sticky situation of trying to tell their partner what they should do or what they see. And obviously it's intertwined in a relationship. All relationships have pluses and minuses. And that is a sticky area. But when you're able to reinforce versus be the teller, I think it kind of takes some pressure off, right? I mean,
Yeah.
my estimation.
Well, the difference being, you know, we were all we really had forever, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly you have an independent source of coaching. And like I said, it was beyond career. It was the day-to-day, how I get up in the morning. What do I do first thing? What is the last thing I do to bed? What do I do in those hours in between?
Yeah.
How I manage my day became an, you know, impact obviously on my family. You can't do that without it being observed by others. So, you know, the Post-it notes start to go up on the bathroom mirror. And I start to listen to some affirmations, and I have this notebook, and I'm doing some daily gratitudes and 10-10-10s, and doing some more meditation than I ever did before, and learning about chakras. And so we started buying a few books and, you know, shopping for stones next thing you know. So, so it's really impacted kind of, you know, the difference in how we approach our day to day.
So when you came into the workshop, you decided to join my 12-week workshop, and you're thinking, I got to reinvent my career. I've got to figure something out. I know you weren't super eager to transfer again.
Right.
So you wanted to have those constraints about your decision to do the next thing for you.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So, I mean, we knew that going in. So there's a bit of a constraint, but at the same time, when your energy and your sense of self, your soul began to lift up and pick up, what were some of the early things that you noticed about your viewpoint, even maybe how you were viewing yourself? What were some of
that was a huge shift, because I think I always believed, you know, maybe it's a little old school, maybe it's from the upbringing I have. Frank and I both have family that pretty much never left the state, if not the county. You know, or zip code. So we were the first, we were the outliers, we're the black sheep, and nobody knows what to do with us. So I certainly was leaning a lot towards learning from you and the coaches. And what I started to notice is that, you know, a lot of old practices are really relying on the company, and the company's looking out for you and blah, blah, blah. We know that not to be true, but yet at the same time, that's kind of how I ended up with my career path. You know, just kind of as a job popped up, I never really took stock of, you know, this, we could say no. I could actually say no, or I could, you know, beyond negotiating for a little bit more money or whatever, which I had always done. And, you know, maybe we do stand firm in what we want, what we believe in, instead of being scared to death because I don't have health insurance right now, which is a real thing. But you know, that there's other ways to manage your life.
So you may or may not know this, but typically the women that I have worked with in the workshop have some very common traits that you just expressed. And I haven't scientifically studied this, but I know that almost a half of the women in the workshop are first generation educated from their family, which when you think about it, does make sense. If there's not a role model within the family of origin on what do you do with a college education or a master's or sometimes even a graduate degree. We have a woman in the workshop right now. She's got a PhD, and that is not where she came from. So having that level of someone who can help you navigate the next level of road that, you know, no offense to anyone's family, but they weren't able to give you that.
Right.
So you have that. The next thing is a lot of women's careers are dictated by their opportunities and what they're handed.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank, I don't know about your career, but this is something pretty unique to women. Men usually have a bit of a more upper hand in making choices or having pushback that they feel more comfortable with on the choices that they're given. So those two scenarios pretty much led you to, I can't make the best decisions for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Please help me find someone who knows how to help me navigate that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in fact, that very statement that you made about first generation and being college educated, I know we talked about that. That was something that really clicked with me when we had that conversation, and was a definite click. It's like,
yeah,
hadn't thought of that.
Frank, let me ask you a question. Put you on the spot just a little bit. You've watched Kelly's career and you've watched her make decisions, and you've obviously endorsed the family moving and that sort of thing. Did you realize from your position being with her for X number of years and creating a family together that what she was accepting or dealing with may have been different if you were handed that same thing? Did you recognize that in watching her?
You know, that's a great question, Mo. I kind of looked at it where, you know, our 25-year history together, I guess there's some naivete because the things that she went through in the corporate world, in a few of our stops were pretty crushing, the tactics that were used.
Yeah.
So I never looked at it from a prism of, well, if it was me, would that have happened?
Okay.
Kelly's my wife. She's my partner. And her, you know, her heartaches are my heartaches. And she had gone through some nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And we both have. And, you know, there's a bit of, it's almost nefarious. You know, sometimes it gets whitewashed because it's got a corporate label on it and they have pretty commercials on TV, but the tactics they use. And as I mentioned earlier, when, you know, Kelly had reached literally the end of the road, she could only, like a boxer, can only take so many body blows. So that was my heart. The answer is I never looked at it that way. So I just don't think that way. Right.
I gotcha.
I mean, because I know there's a difference between men and women.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
in the work world. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious when we start to take reflections on it that girls and women are raised differently and expectations are different on what our role is in the family. I mean, just look at that. So the caretaker and versus typically the go out and get for the family type of thing. These roles are blurring and blending.
Right.
As women are enhancing their professional ambitions and participation, et cetera. And it's still one of those things that tips the scale a little bit still. And this is why I'm so passionate about the work I do. As you know, Kelly, I don't help women turn into men. We do just the opposite, honestly. We help women become fully who they are. That's right. So as you became fully you and you found your soul back and you started bringing the shine and the light back, Kelly, what were some of the things that began to be obvious to you or that you started to notice just as your journey went on?
That's a great question because there were so many things. I think you know, our positive alignment just started to become more natural. We just started communicating to each other a little differently. Our sons are young adults, and they've noticed, they've had some conversations with us that, you know, that it's been difficult on them, of course, at times. So they recognize that there was some healing of job traumas that, you know, they're always looking up to mom and dad and you try to protect your kids, of course, but there's only so much. And
so much you can hide.
And we're a big, loud Italian family. So, you know, what's coming out.
As they get older too, they observe more and feedback less. They're watching you as they years.
Right. Boys especially.
So, you know, that was an interesting dynamic. Yeah. I've noticed Kelly was, you know, a lot of the things that you help women with, the forgiveness. And, you know, if I may say, I mean, there's a lot of spirituality to it.
Absolutely.
Kelly and I we haven't been on the same path spiritually, grew up different faiths. But when I married Kelly, I told her I married her for who she is, not what her faith is. And then it's interesting. A lot of what you bring is the same power, healing power of having a good faith connection. And then, relying on yourself, knowing that you have self-worth and building from there.
Yes.
And so I would say that's the core of what you've been able to bring to Kelly and how she's been able to get to where she's at now. That I've noticed from afar as your partner.
Right. Well, not too afar, because I'm sure that you live close quarters at any time.
We're
under the same roof. Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to get into that, okay? But I know when we become more confident in ourselves, just as a human being, the people we love, we are more confident with them.
Right.
And we are more open and expressive and emotionally available, which enhances everyone.
Yes.
Raising teenagers and young men who are going to be going out into the world, and Kelly watching them see their mother come back alive. What do you think that's given them?
It's huge, I think, because they too have been affected of, they're trying to shape their own future. And, if mom has been affected, dad's been, the trailing spouse, as they call it, then, what's going to happen to us, kind of thing. It shakes their confidence in the future of corporate America too. And, but in a good way, it's really helped to spin our conversations behind being the martyr, being a victim, being all of that to, there's a lesson in everything, and we come out stronger, and you learn from things. You learn how you may have, handled things differently. But there's an element of just being appreciative and grateful for what you have gone through, no matter what.
Yeah. So it's so different to come out of being victimized by corporate America to recognizing that what the journey has been for you has made you stronger. And not to sound so cliche, because I think there is a song like that, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Oh yeah.
But it when you have that framework around it, it allows you to heal better.
Right.
And realize that you can get back in the driver's seat and take charge of decision-making and things that you want to do.
Right.
Now, you made a little bit of a shift going through the workshop, because as you were getting healed and getting more secure about who you are and what you wanted to do, you decided to take a role in an opportunity that wasn't exactly what you were corporated up to be. Just talk a little bit about that. And so go ahead.
So interestingly enough, something out of the blue that came up was offered to me that was a very different direction. It was more of a business development sales direction, not the corporate product development path. And I opted to just take it because I knew that it would teach me new things. I went into it with an entirely different perspective. I had an open mind. I was learning new things. I was, there was a gratitude for every single day and every single experience. And what I gained from it was just, I knew it was just different in every way. It just felt more powerful. When I interviewed, even, I felt as if I went in and just interviewed unlike any other interview. I didn't feel as if I was trying to convey what they wanted to hear.
Okay. So Kelly, you were talking about the interview approach that you had because you were feeling more confident and happier with yourself. So you were just being Kelly.
Yeah. I was really, again, like by all accounts, it was kind of crazy. I was actually interviewing and called in to interview for this role. But, when you look at it on paper, it was very different than my background. And I talked through that with ease and confidence, and there was no question. I just felt I was presenting myself. I had never felt such confidence. I felt in the past, for every role I've ever had an interview, there's a level of telling them what they want to hear kind of thing, and doing your research. And of course you need to, but I just felt such, peace with it. And I knew that it was just it was what it was. And if they were going to make me an offer, it was based on who I was, and that that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And those were lessons I hadn't learned. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, you're cool. So what happens typically when we're trying to impress or trying to be something different than we feel inside is there's an inauthenticity that gets transmitted.
Yeah.
And most people think that they're doing the right thing by doing that. But what ends up happening is that gap is just picked up. And there's like this, oh, I don't know, she seems kind of strong, maybe. So what happens is that insecurity that we are telegraphing ends up kind of showing up somewhere along the line. And, sometimes we've heard it called the imposter syndrome. I don't really love that, because what really it is that the inner you has not really reached its full expression. So you're still there.
Yeah.
Just coming out and expressing yourself more freely and more openly, more in alignment. And everyone who's been through the workshop has expressed how their interviews are just easier.
Yeah.
And easy conversations, and it just flows better. So when we're in that flow, we do feel like we can do almost anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not that you could have done cardiac surgery or something after that, but
that's right. Maybe some CPR.
Doing business development and sales for a company that I think you also felt passionate about what they were doing in education.
Yeah. It was inauthentic.
Yeah. So you got into that role, and you were in the grad group at this point. Had finished up the 12-week program. You were continuing with the daily practices and honing in. Frank, when Kelly was ready to take that job and start that fresh trek in a new professional shift, what was going on with you? What were you seeing, perceiving? Where were you at?
By this time, Kelly had given me, like the nuts and bolts of the program she was in, the program, and all the tools she was developing. So I noticed a change in her from that. I firmly believe she wouldn't have been in her right mind to step through a doorway that was so far out of her comfort zone in a professional realm that she had never been in before. I noticed that immediately. More in a realm where I've navigated. So I was at that point been able to be like a coach with her too, and bounce things off. But without a doubt, Kelly wouldn't have been as free-spirited, as open-minded, as grounded and centered to even try that opportunity.
And the frustrations would have mounted, or you would have been off to city XYZ for another opportunity that you probably were going to go with some insecurity, and I'm not sure, and a little bit of guilt about uprooting again and that sort of thing, because that's the baggage that we take if we're not healed from that. So you come into this new role. I kind of was sensing that you were doing something along those lines. It's tough for me to memorize everyone's job that they land and that sort of thing, all the ladies who've been through the workshop. And I had a position where I was expanding and looking for someone to help on my team. And I don't know, it was just kind of weird. Like I thought, I'm going to see if I can call Kelly Massey and see what she's up to. So I threw a wild opportunity your way. And when you told me exactly what you were doing, I said to myself, wow, that worked out pretty well, because that's the perfect lead up to what I needed you to do. And for my ask, if you were so eager to do that. And gosh, it's kind of funny when we look back or when we think through things, I have a saying, everything always works out for me. So taking an opportunity that you felt in the flow with, even though the intellect couldn't really wrap its brain around, why does this make sense for me?
Yeah.
So here you are now, sort of fresh into a new opportunity with Team Coach Mo.
Yes, I am. Couldn't be happier. Everything always works out for me too.
Wow. Apply such phrase to you, human being who are watching. Tell me a little bit about how that kind of either came together for you, or the thought process around that. Because let's just face it, there was a bit of another career leap.
Yeah, for sure. Well, working away one day at this semi-new role I was at, phone rings, and out of the blue, I see Mo, and it's like, Mo's calling me, calling moi. I'd been through the program. I was just uber impressed with the program, and with all the coaches, and I wanted to touch on some of the unexpecteds too, and
Oh, cool.
in addition, and that was really the community of like-minded women, my village.
Yes.
I found my village because something else through my path that I never really picked up on is how much you need that independent group of that sounding board, that support, that love, especially amongst women who you can trust and support each other unconditionally. And boy, did I find it and more. And I mean, that was something that I didn't expect. So, some nice friendships developed, some in my own current home city. Kathy Lesser, shout out. So we love getting together and just keeping each other's alignment motivated, and just keeping each other pumped up, and just have so much in common that we just help in the sisterhood, as we say, support each other. Right. So I got a call from you, Mo, and boy, it was a week of corporate shifts. Let's just say there was a lot of turmoil once again, and we were advised there was going to be a significant impact on the bottom line, and it would trickle on down. So I had already said, okay.
Time for another door.
Time for another door is right. And the door came right to me, and it was just amazing. And I knew through working through the workshop that those were also kind of the norms that happen with women that have gotten into the right flow and putting that right energy out, as you said. So I'm beyond ecstatic to be working on Team Coach Mo full time, and just being surrounded by all the beneficiaries of the other coaches, and just absorbing so much and learning so much more every day. Helping to serve other women the way I've been served, because that's exactly what I could have never foreseen that. So to be able to help other women avoid the job trauma, and at least put in the balance consideration for and while having the support and love, and knowing they can get someone to help negotiate through a severance package or into a new role, or any of these things that come along, is priceless, really, for me.
Frank, what was going on from your perspective as you were watching Kelly make another decision or step into another role, and I'll just say kind of be a little bit even more bolder with the career move?
Again, everything, like the alignment, you couldn't script the alignment any better, because the role Kelly was in, again, was something new she hadn't done. So it developed a whole different part of her. And the opportunity with you was able to tie in the love for serving and helping people, because we're both very empathetic, and we want to serve. And what I found through different layers of professionalism and my faith is, when you put other people first and you serve them, what you need will come back to you.
That's right.
And that's the way of the universe.
Right.
And this new role under your organization allows Kelly to do exactly that. And the stories that I hear, it's the same thing when I'm helping people. When people are down, they need a helping hand. And sometimes people don't know that the helping hand's in front of them. They don't know to reach out and grasp. And that's where you need to use your confidence in yourself and those new developed skills to say, look, I'm here to help you. This will work for you. And then this is why. Because some people are so beat up on their own selves. They, their light is so dim, they need help.
Amen to that. And I know that one of the things that Kelly brings to the team is her perspective on having gone through the workshop and been there. I mean, I created this whole entire workshop because I'd been there so many times in my career. And I saw women not really be able to find their way.
Right.
It doesn't even really matter why the reason, but very difficult finding the way. And Kelly, to your point on the sisterhood, I think so many women have not ever trusted other women for very primitive reasons. We don't need to go into that right now. But women are sort of taught to fight against each other to get the guy type of thing. And there's like a very primitive thing going on about that. So we women have not really accultured into how the tribe and how the alliance can make us stronger. And I think so many women have gained that as well in the workshop. As long as their own personal growth and career growth, they've also gained a deeper appreciation of lifting up other women.
Absolutely.
And when you can speak to the women on the clarity calls and help them see where they're at, that's the other thing. I mean, you're hurting, but you're thinking maybe this is just what life is. And you now have that ray of sunshine to say, no, there's something better for you.
Yep. Absolutely.
And let us pull you through the darkness.
Yeah.
I know you've had the pleasure of speaking with several dozen women so far in your work. What do you think is the common theme of the women who book their clarity calls and seek us out? What are some of the things that you're seeing that's going on with them? And
yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a number of things. They are busy being the doer, right? Putting themselves last. They're never at the front. Unlike unlike traditionally men, where they can pocket themselves, and when they go to work, that's their focus, and they don't have other things sort of impacting. Women being the natural sort of multitaskers, nurturers, you've got that coming from you at all angles all the time. So learning how to balance, but more importantly, take care of yourself is, I think, huge. I think that's probably the number one thing. Some women recognize it, some think it's a foreign language. So it's a very different concept, I would say, for most women.
And there's almost like this cliche that self-care is like getting a manicure and pedicure or a massage.
Exactly.
That's really going to take care of your soul. But that's like, I can squeeze that hour in once a month or whatever to take care of myself, which isn't really the dosing necessary to really bring life back.
Exactly.
When you reflect on the past year of watching Kelly go from kind of rock bottom, as you mentioned, to where she is today and how she's able to really show up and serve and really be a beacon for other women, what are some of the main things from the husband family side that you've really noticed in her journey?
Well, again, one of the things is, your program, the workshop, gave her a network. It gave her a lattice to rebuild herself. It gave her structure with her day, with the individual, the affirmations and understanding, because you have to rebuild yourself. And if I may defer back to a few minutes, one of the things that I think is universal between men and women is when you're at the other end of the occupational rejection, right? When you're told no, we don't want you anymore. Some people take that personally. Some people go down deep. And I think that's not a gender. No. I don't think that's a gender thing. I think some people take corporate rejection really bad, or any kind of occupational rejection. And what I've noticed is your program helps people understand that there are people to help them. And because it's an isolationist thing. Once you start blaming yourself, you're holding a hammer and you're driving the nail. You're driving yourself right into the ground. I mean, I've had that relationship before, and watching Kelly, and from Kelly explaining to me the things she was going through your program helped me self-heal from like 7 years ago, because I took a no really hard and personal. Wow. So I'd like to just put that out there. Yes, I'm a man from that perspective, but I think people who And I think it starts with when you put your work in front of you. It's almost like some people wear their emotions on their sleeve, but some people do what they do for a living.
Yeah.
They put their all into that. They care. It's like
Yeah.
pride of workmanship,
Sure,
pride of ownership.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people just punch a clock. I mean, that's just the way it is. Some people never get emotional. They never give it their all. They're just punching a clock. But for those who put pride and give their all, when you get that no in the occupation, that's when it can be devastating. What you do, Mo, and your team, how it helps people. I watched how it helped Kelly. And like I said, there was some little splash over for me too, from what Kelly taught me how to learn. So I wanted to get that out there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And then that kind of answers the question. I was able to watch Kelly rebuild herself and her value. And, when you can realize the benefit of what you bring to the table, those tactics of when you get jettisoned don't hurt anymore, it bounces off you, then you're able to keep your head up and scan the horizon for what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you see the next door open, you walk through it as a whole different person.
Yes.
And I watched that with Kelly.
Yeah.
With where she's at now. Our 2 teenage sons were able to observe that too. So
Kelly shared, I'll say just a cute little share about one of your sons and how he's practicing celebrating his accomplishments and his wins. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, of course. It's our younger son. He for years actually had done this, and it was something. Honestly, I'm not sure if he picked it up through school or how he picked it up, but even. What he did was he has a little jar, and every so often when he would tell me something good would happen to him. He's been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. He would write a little note. I mean, these are tiny little pieces of paper, and drop it in the jar. Yeah. And at the end of the year, he would read it. And while I knew about it, it's like, oh my God, when I went through this, I was like, he's affirming in himself. He's practicing gratitude. He's practicing what he should. This is what kids need to learn. This is what we adults need to relearn or learn for the first time. And that is self-care. That's the meaning. And whether you're male, female, doesn't matter, kid or adult. And I came across that again recently, and it's super cool that he does that.
It is cool. And the corollary as a parent to be able to be visible with him and for him and encourage that rather than either like shuck it off or not pay attention or whatever. I mean, these are the things that I know impact kids, having raised two as well, that when we are allowing them to be visible in their brilliance, it changes everything for them.
Absolutely.
We're their first cheerleaders. And if we're coming at that with all of our judgments and fear and hurt, that's what they're going to receive as well.
Right.
And so when you shared that, I just knew that what he had started years ago, again, you don't really recall exactly how that happened, but now you're able to actually shine the light on something that is helpful and going to impact his own sense of self. Even though I do know that he's a very talented kid, which sometimes can be a little bit negative teenager. Okay, there can be a little bit of negative.
Oh, for sure.
Shining too brightly sometimes as a teenager. So, teenage years, I think all of us would agree we'd never want to relive them because it's a very tricky time period. And,
nope. No thanks.
Right. I think I had a blackout from the age of like 14 to 24.
Exactly.
What happened?
Yeah.
So I know how precious parenting at those ages is, and to support young men in today's world is a tricky situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that kids are exposed to than I ever was. And my kids are now in their late 20s, early 30s. So like almost every 5 or 10 years, there's another dimension of what kids are exposed to and the pace of the world and these types of things. If you're a parent who's shut down, you can't shepherd them along the way in a way that's going to be helpful. You're going to be coming from fear and adding some dimness to the equation. I mean, that's just what happens as parents. What would you tell someone? Let me go to Frank first on this one. Frank, what would you say to another spouse whose wife is at rock bottom? And we both know that my workshop is an investment, okay, in time and money. It takes the woman away from the family for several hours during the week on top of everything else. What would you say to a husband who's sitting here going, I don't know, my wife should be able to just get a job and just pick herself up and move on, and I don't know. What would you say to that loving husband?
Okay, that's a great. See, I'm going to categorize that. There's going to be two mindsets. So it's the mindset, right? So there could be the curmudgeon husband who thinks nothing of it and it shouldn't be that complicated, just go out and get a job. And then there's the open-minded husband who knows that there's a lot of games being played these days. Post-recession things, Kelly and I, when we started through the 90s and in different parts of the country, we've seen this progression, how things have gotten sinister. So my general answer to both mindsets of husband is, you cannot do it yourself. You do not have the breadth and depth to support your spouse, your wife, that she needs. Okay? There's a place for our support and our knowledge and wisdom and our experience, but it's only so much. It's a small, tiny fraction. We don't have what our wives need to start the inertia, to get the ball rolling, to roll the stone. We can come in as the stone is rolling downhill and help keep it on track. So that's what I would say to both husbands in the different mindsets. In the curmudgeon, I would say, get over it, dude. You're not at all. Your wife needs the help of the sisterhood, and just understand that. Yeah. And it's no shame, if that's the kind of baggage you're carrying. To the open mindset husband, the voice you're hearing, let your wife do this. She needs it. Nurture that, push that. Yeah. It doesn't diminish, to both mindset husbands, it doesn't diminish you being the man or the husband. Makes you stronger.
Absolutely. We had one woman recently, Frank, who decided to go into the workshop, and she made an independent decision on it. And when she told her husband about it, he said, "Can I hug you?" And she said, "Of course." And they literally cried together because he was so proud of her having stepped into something that she knew she needed for herself, and to have him witness her stepping into what she really needed was very touching for him. And it was, when she told the story, it was just, we were all just like in tears, basically, of the love that he was showing her. And she was a little bit scared about the decision, of course. I mean, most of the women who make this decision are a little scared, like, will it work for me? Am I, really needing this type of investment? We're talking about a career that affects the family. There's no person who's working in the world whose career and job is not affecting the family. Doesn't exist.
Exactly.
As we become more integrated in just communication, let's just face it, I used to be able to go home and go home. Now it's cell phones and email and text messages. So our work becomes more a part of the fabric of our daily existence. And that's not going to change. Right. What happens at our job is always brought home. There's no person who can totally compartmentalize it and make that be okay.
That's right.
And there is no family who can say, you know what, if my wife's more successful, makes more money and happier, whatever. You can't do that. You can't do a whatever. Yeah. And women have opportunities to be seen and visible and powerful and strong and influential, and really bring great money back to the family and for their futures and to enjoy life. So, Kelly, what would you say to that woman who was in your same shoes a year ago about the decision that you made? How would you counsel?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I would say is what I have been saying quite frequently lately when I am talking to ladies who are, looking for a solution and are feeling that pain that I felt and just don't feel like there's any way out. And, you know, the company this, the company that, my boss this, they're in a toxic environment, or they just don't know how to navigate the next step, or they're bored and they're just underutilized and they have an MBA and they're working for an entry-level salary, all these things. I share my experience. Ask me anything you want, because you know what? I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I've had the underpaid, undervalued, the toxic, I've had it all. Yeah. I can help you with any of those questions, and know that you have resources that are world-class. You have a team, not just a single coach. You know, you have everything and more. And you have this community that will support and guide you forever. This is not about a time frame where, you know, the light's on, the light's off, click, you're out of the program and have a nice life, you know. So, yeah. This is a commitment, but it will change your life internally and externally, every single day. For those in your immediate circle today, you may find yourself doing some processing of making some changes with those that are currently in your life. I know I went through a little bit of that, and shifting those that I surround myself with on a regular basis, and the dialogues that happen. So it's all that and more. The only thing I could say that I wish I had done differently is had done it sooner. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I mean, it truthfully is life-changing. This is a transformation of your life, not just a resume, you know, refresh. This is all encompassing, everything from your core soul to the way that you're going to negotiate your next increase and your next raise. Absolutely. And you'll be able to do those things with your family and come home happier and be in control, and know that there is peace and within you, and it'll radiate out of you to those around you, and people will have no choice but to just accept it. Yeah.
When you're able to shine your brilliance, it is infectious. Just like the corollary, right? So when you're at rock bottom, it was affecting everyone also.
Exactly.
So we are not ever detached from our experience and what the people around us are experiencing. Yeah. So that's awesome. Kelly and Frank, I could keep talking with you forever because I love your story. Frank, you're so gracious to be our first husband interview. And I'm super excited about this. I love the fact that the husbands, partners of the ladies in the workshop get such benefit out of their woman becoming a bigger, stronger, better version of themselves, and how that impacts not only you and your relationship, but the whole family and your future. I mean, your future has to be feeling pretty bright. Getting to a point in your career where it's, you know, let's just say traumatic situation, one after the other, you begin to lose hope that there's going to be much of a future. And now you have a lot of brightness. And Frank, I think your career has had an uplift as well recently. So congratulations to that. We love the secondhand smoke, so to speak, coming. That's an awesome.
You know, when you're grounded, when you value yourself and you appreciate yourself and you know your value of yourself, when you step into work, the work environment, you have a gravity about you. Ooh, and some people just float around and buzz around like fireflies. And when you bring that gravity, they calm down. You get people to settle into an orbit around you, and you can make decisions day to day. Like when a fire starts, you're not running with your hair on fire looking for the bucket of water. You're the source putting out the fire. Absolutely. And that's what I've noticed. And one little last thing I might say in regards to the husbands saying yes and supporting your wives. You know, the modern day definition of a good leader is people who surround themselves with good people and the best people, not in the old days in the 50s where you surrounded yourself with people to keep under and make yourself shine. Yeah. You surround yourself with a good team and you make them shine. That's the new definition of a leader. Well, I would like to say that's the new definition of a husband. And if you have the right open mindset, you want your wife to be the best person she can be.
Who is he? No.
So
What a great pick, Kelly.
so I mean that from the heart. I hope it.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
because
awesome.
why wouldn't you be? You know, you don't
Yeah.
want to.
Why not?
You don't want to be a caveman husband. Why?
Right.
That doesn't fly anymore.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure Kelly, vice versa. She certainly wants you to be the best version of you, and I'm sure she wants to be the best version of what you need. I've had so many women go through the workshop saying, I've stopped being a needy wife, or I've stopped being a jealous wife, or whatever. Like the games go way the heck down, and human beings are just inherently either going to be connected and trusting and at peace with each other, or they have to fill the insecurities with games. And so same thing at work.
Right.
But when you bring that home, when you bring the calmness and the trust and the confidence to your primary relationship, I mean, to me, that's just like,
that's the gravity.
Yeah. I like that. I like that word. We're gonna pick that one up.
We are.
Pick it up for licensing.
We're talking about that one tomorrow.
Right. Exactly. Really, thank you so much, Kelly and Frank. I really appreciate it. Frank, I've gotten to know you over the last month or so a little bit, and this has just been a real treat for me to get to know you and hear your words and your wisdom about being such a great partner and husband to Kelly. And I look for getting to know you even more. And Kelly, thank you very much for sharing your story today.
Thank you, Mo.
Thank you, Mo.
Thank you for the opportunity all around.
It's inspire others. Yes. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
For the time. All right.
Okay.
Folks, you can check out Kelly's story again or other client stories at mofall.com. And we're always here to help lift you up and get you going in your career. The secret is it's also going to affect and change your life forever. Thanks again, Kelly.